there's a little bit of India in every Mercedes. For those of you who have not touched base with the GCC that we're celebrating 30 years next year, right here in Bengaluru, with an office in Pune. 14,000 people now, and the largest R&D center for Mercedes outside of Germany, right? And that's and some great collaborations also with folks here in the room. Something ongoing with Sindhu here on SAP. Accenture is a partner, and a lot others. So there's a bit of ecosystem in the room that supports the whole discussion as well. We have an innovation-focused power talk for the next about 5-6 minutes. And we're going to focus a little bit about the journey of the GCC, and in its journey, when you scale up from numbers to look at the relevance, when you scale up from service delivery to value delivery, what typical things need to be done in a GCC like ours. I'm going to quote an ER&D example, and I'm sure for folks with IT in the room and other healthcare and other industries, it's quite similar in terms of understanding how do you move up the value chain and stay relevant to headquarters as you age, as you gain those valuable years behind you and gravitas in terms of product and competency. We coined this for a reason. 2018, the problem statement thrown was we need to have gesture in the car. We'd like to recognize gestures. If it's the driver or the co-driver just gesturing inside the car, we don't want our drivers and owners to learn sign languages to drive a Mercedes, make it intelligent. What can you do? You have a camera as a sensor, but that's not it. It's a moving machine, which means connectivity is not a given around the world, and it's quite often that you need to, say, learn and conclude on the edge, right? Anyone could have picked up that problem statement, right, in the world. We are in Sunnyvale, we are in Palo Alto, we are in Tel Aviv, we are in Berlin, we are in Stuttgart anyway, in Beijing, and in Bangalore. Now, what's the time when we are asking ourselves the question, what next for Bangalore, right? How do we scale this up? And I have this very simple question that I ask my folks every strategy workshop. Like it or not, when you call it GCC, you'll always have somebody called HQ, headquarters, right? And there's always this question I ask them, how do you earn respect at headquarters, right? The second year you go into a strategy workshop, how do you continue to earn respect at headquarters? In all fairness to 140 years of auto engineering from Stuttgart, you ask this question and you come up with very, very different answers every time to say, how do you earn respect at headquarters? 2018 with about, at that time, 8,000 people already, the question was, well, if you can do what they do, if you can outdo them, if you can be ahead of the curve, if you can provide digital tailwinds to the whole ecosystem, there's a very strong chance that you earn respect at headquarters. And there's a problem statement lying right in front of us. We want our customers to be gesturing inside the car, and the car has to do the right thing. You pick up a series of technical things that needs to be done, and you immediately run into a typical GCC mindset to say, I can program this, I can translate this, I can test this, but I can't decide. I have to work with the supplier, I don't have the experience of doing that. Oh, it's an industry first, we don't have an FPGA that could do an edge device, I need to get there. And you soon make a list of things where you see you're technically capable of moving the needle, but you need leadership to be able to push that there and say, we take that call and we stay with it. 2020, just before Corona and the lockdown hit us, we were at CES Las Vegas. I haven't brought that slide with me. I think this was more magical than that one, but that's equally magical. My team was on the front demoing gesture at CES, at the Consumer Electronics Show, and there was a slide. It was magical in 2020 to see AI in the car. Meanwhile, it's not. It's a standard meanwhile. But we were gesturing to the car, open windows, close windows, open the sunroof, close the sunroof, up the volume, down the volume, whatever you did. And there was a slide on stage, just one slide, to say, where does this magic come from? And there was MBRDI written on that, right? For the whole of Las Vegas to see edge device on the car for the first time, and where does it come from, right? That's the kind of problem statements we want to pick up and run. Because I think over the years, especially in the ER&D space, and I'm sure many of you connect with this, especially if you're on the product and engineering space, your market is so far away from you from here. The tendency not to read the market, not to be able to read a market, and have an excuse to say my customers are sitting really thousands of miles away from me, not able to consider that and take up the entire ownership is very, very strong. So we've moved the needle consequently to say, Make in India could continue, right? I don't know, we could have a debate on how to kind of live with two worlds in a GCC, one that's actually making in India. But for the invent from India to start off in every GCC, we need to move the needle significantly. And I think we're living with this paradox now for the last 5-7 years. I could easily say, there's way more of India in every Mercedes, just not rhyming. Give me 2 more years and we'll make a better slide that says there's a large part of India in every Mercedes, right? We've seen some things that we really need to move to get there. If you abstract that view and say, if that's the Mercedes story, what should everyone do if you have to get there? And a lot of industry folks who come and visit, we often exchange notes and try to understand what could be some takeaways we are learning from each other. One of the things we realized is we often kind of understate the role of leadership in moving the needle at GCC. 1.4 million graduates, or 1.1, whatever the number is, still graduate out of universities. That's like a given. You come into the company and then decide who's actually calling the shots when it comes to that magical formula of what is being done here. And that's where I think there's an urgent need to move the needle at GCCs for the think tank to flip the switch and start thinking, if I have to invent from India for my mothership, how do I do it? And it's not a one-size-fits-all. There's no single formula that works for all of us. We've discovered our own because we are in that luxury auto space. We know the local market is very small for us. Therefore, our customers, like I said, are far away from us. But we know tech moves. Tech literally dictates auto engineering today, whether it's in the digital twin space of mechanical engineering, whether it's in the software space under the hood of the car, or whether it's in the IT space that's running the company, the enterprise for us. And in all the 3 fields, we know India has a very, very strong backbone with which we can move the needle. That's number 1. Number 2, we've placed a heavy focus on innovation, right? Invent out of India, innovate out of India is a culture shift. It's a mindset shift. It's a dedicated team's job. It's a dedicated philosophy that one needs to root in the company to be able to switch it. You can see, you can learn, you can get inspired, but the amount of work that's in the center to be able to move the needle on innovation is something huge, right? Last year, we clocked about 400 IP filings for Mercedes out of Bangalore alone. That's about 20% of all of Mercedes' IP coming out of Bangalore, right? Soon, we'd be at position number 2 for Mercedes when it comes to IP filings. And if you look at that pie chart and say, so much of ideas on the product that's worth defending in the court that comes out of India, then you know you're moving the needle significantly, right? Those are some of the, I think, highlights of how we are tuning our journey. The future is not going to be easy. If you picked up the last tweet on 2030 and the risks that GCCs are facing, I believe that is indeed an extremely risky proposition right now to sit on our chairs and wait for GCCs to just turn up by numbers. I think the number game is going to be there, like Rajesh said. The biggest paradox that I see is one, coexistence, keeping the shop floor alive with all the serious maintenance of your products, life cycle maintenance of your products, continuing to kind of deliver, and at the same time run a parallel track, which is redefining your space, because you cannot say, I can't pass on the India advantage back to headquarters. The cost is a given factor. The amount of talent that's around is a given factor. More work is just going to find its place to India. Just how you manage your house inside, that's going to make a difference. So that's the second paradox with which we'll have to leave. And last but not the least, even at the risk of repeating, intentionally repeating, the leadership factor in the whole game. How do we get our leaders to flip the switch and lead differently, inspire differently, and start to talk, let's say, just share larger dreams with their teams about how they should see the world out of Bangalore, out of Pune, out of India, right? That's going to make a difference. Partly leaders are kind of growing up to the challenge. Partly, I think there's still work to do for all of us as an industry. KSV and I keep especially sharing the topic of leadership quite often and say that these are not people who've come in straight learning how the business of GCCs is done. Unfortunately, there are not so many examples to look up to. But I think if we crack that formula on leadership, we really have a very, very bright future together, both in the IT and the ER&D space. So I'm looking to redefine that slide soon for us. It's inspiring to do that for a brand like that. Today, it's really true that my engineers walk around anywhere in the world and say that function, that piece of software on the car is actually coming out of Bangalore. Thank you very much for this time. And I'm really hoping that together as a team with the ecosystem that we can push the needle on innovation together for the GCCs. Thank you.